Awesome. Okay. Well, now we're going to get started with Caleb Cole from WSDA, and he's going to talk about compliance update related to Bulletins Live and some other stuff. Yeah. Thanks, Caleb.
Hi there. Let me see if I can make sure this is pointing the right direction. Okay, my name's Caleb Cole. I'm with the Washington State Department of Agriculture. I'm the case review officer, and I'm here to talk to you about a bunch of different things that are coming up, try to keep everybody up to date, and give you some ideas on how to interact if you need to. I dropped some brochures on the back, some trifold things about the stuff I'm going to go over today, and some other things. They have little QR codes. I'm not a big fan of QR code, but all the URLs that's involved in this stuff are so long that it's really kind of pointless to try to write them down. So I broke down, put the QR codes in there so you can scan them and get to all the pages we're going to talk about. So first off, I'm going to go over kind of our upcoming rulemaking that you can participate in to make sure you have a seat at the table. Like somebody always told me, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're on the menu. So if you're interested in something that's going to be in your area, make sure to reach out to us and you can participate in the rulemaking process. The Field Watch program, which they put in this thing for me, but we haven't really finished it yet, but it's supposed to help drift and bee damage. So that's coming up. We're still working on that one. Computer-based testing, licensing has started that. We even have one here in Bellingham is the nearest computer-based testing for licensing. So that's makes things a lot easier and faster. It does cost a little more, but it is easier and faster than trying to wait for us to do one down in Burlington or in Olympia. Bulletins Live 2, of course, the ongoing thing. I don't think anybody should fret about that too much. When it becomes an issue, you'll see it on the label. So, and then the EPA's Endangered Species Act work plan, that's going to be the next thing coming up. I know I had some questions about that last year. Good news is they took the one thing that we were worried about off the list, but then they added another one for us. So that's a continually evolving program. So we'll go over that too. Agricultural and Environmental Services, it used to be Pesticide Management Division. We changed our name and we incorporated some new ones. All the ones that used to be in there are still there. Dairy Nutrient Management Program is actually changing their name. Come the start of the new year, it'll be Nutrient Management Technical Services. Everything else stay the same, they're just changing their name. We added the Natural Resources and Ag Sciences, NRAS, if you're familiar with them, and also the Cannabis and Hemp programs. So those are all under the new Agricultural and Environmental Services Division that kind of took shape halfway through this year. So we're still getting things under control there. A lot of our stuff still has the old pesticide management headings on it. We have 3 areas for ourselves in pesticide compliance. There's actually not an office, but there kind of is in Bellingham. It's a Dairy Nutrient Management Program's office. And when I was the investigator up here, it was where I worked out of, but I was only ever there to make sure the furniture got delivered. And now nobody else is up here. The nearest ones are down in North Seattle, I think just the other side of Everett. But those are our 3 areas. We're in area 1, which is by Rusty Sauls. Now, the first one I want to talk about are the new upcoming rulemaking. The first one is the chemigation and fertigation rulemaking. It's under WAC 16202. That should be a really easy one. A few years ago, industry, Brian, came to us and said, hey, we've got these really good new chemigation and fertigation systems, but nobody can use them because your rules were made 20 years ago. So they started working on that, and then the pandemic hit, and then we had some people retire, and I eventually got my job, and they said, hey, this started in 2018. Want to take a look at it? I'm like, yeah, we probably should. So we have finally got it done. We're in preliminary rulemaking. We're ready to start doing our meetings. And all this is going to do, so it should be really simple if anybody wants to go into it, is we're going to take out the duplication. Right now, it's copied for chemigation and then fertigation. It's 100 pages. It could be 50 pages, which is still a lot, but it could be a lot shorter. So we're going to take out the duplication. We're going to put in language regarding automatic technology for monitoring. Right now, a lot of the newer chemigation and fertigation can do remote monitoring, so you don't have to be there every 4 hours. So all we're going to do here, the main one, is to take out the requirement that if you're using chemigation and fertigation with these new systems, you don't have to show up every 4 hours. And so I'm not expecting to get a lot of pushback on that since it's helping you out. We're not making anybody buy anything. We're not making anybody get any new licenses. That's another whole issue that I'm sure licensing talked about earlier. I think if I saw the program right, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to get yelled at. But I am the main, I'm the main contact for most of these. But so if you have a problem with rulemaking, I've got my contact information in there as well, I believe. Next one's going to be the new AEZ. EPA changed the rules for the application exclusion zone for the pesticide applications. It's not a real big issue. It's basically, I think the only thing they changed from their preliminary is it doesn't extend outside of the barriers of your property. So it's, other than that, it's not a very big change. And we have to put those in our rules because federal changed rules, so we have to put it in ours. Also, there was a discrepancy between our rules for eye washes and LNI's rules for eye washes. So we have to get those correct again. That's scheduled to start sometime in 2025. General pesticide rule update. There's have to be a lot of changes in our 16228, which is basically the WAC that covers most pesticide applications. There's CNT, which is our new licensing rules. I know nobody's happy about them, but they're not happy about it either. The federal government changed what we have to do. Everybody's gonna have to take new tests. They have to change all their stuff. Even I'm gonna have to take whatever quiz they come up with. But I believe they talked about this a while back, so that's where the angry letters should go, is to pesticide licensing. And I put their contact information in there. They've also got their card helpfully provided back there. But no, I'm not happy about it either. Nobody is. It's just got to happen. We're also going to change some of the rules in there to make them easier to read, because right now there's a lot of rules that they don't make a lot of sense. The verbiage isn't right. The definitions don't work. So we're going to try to go through that and make everything a lot cleaner and a lot easier to understand, break things down as to storage, application, distribution, so you actually know where to look if you want to see your rules instead of having to look through 20 different places. And of course, the legislature passed a change on neonicotinoid pesticides. The odd thing there is they don't want to restrict agricultural use. They just want to restrict home and garden use. So we're trying to figure out a way to make sure that you can't buy it from Home Depot or Lowe's to use at your house, but it's still okay to use in the fields without restriction, which is kind of the opposite way of pesticides normally work. So that's interesting, but we think we've got it figured out. So we have to add those rules to it as well. It shouldn't affect agriculture really at all because it was designed not to. And then, of course, the CNT changes with all the new rules. They had that earlier, I believe, said. So the information's back there if you want to look into that and participate. They worked on it all last year. They couldn't get it done. They have to work on it all this year, but they will eventually get it done because it has to go into implementation by 2026. So that's going to happen. Field Watch is something that we're working on. It's a national crop and apiary registry. If you're familiar with other types of bee positioning systems, so you don't have bee kills, this is kind of that one of those. It's free. The WSDA is fronting for this. So all you have to do is sign up for it once we get it working. And it also helped with people with drift on your neighbors to make sure that is lessened, hopefully. That's the hope. I clicked on that. It doesn't work yet. So, but we're working on it. And hopefully you'll have more information soon as to how to get to these and use them. And it will help decrease bee kills and drift. I mentioned earlier, we have computer-based testing. Currently, we have these locations. They're always working on more. Because right now, if you want to get testing, like today, I'm supposed to be proctoring exams down in Burlington at the WSU Extension there. But I did this instead, so I've got other people doing it. I have to drive down there after this to pick up all the tests because of reasons. I don't know. So come and do that here, or you've got to go to Olympia or drive over to Eastern Washington and go to one of the places there. That's not really working out for most people. What the computer-based testings do, they can do them, I think, every 2 weeks. You can sign up, get it done a lot faster, and you know right away if you passed or failed. So you do the test, hit go, and you know right away if you passed or failed, so you can make plans accordingly, the rest of that. So that's a good thing we finally got through. We finally got it hammered out, and I think it's going to help everybody maintain their stuff. Okay, lastly, the Endangered Species Act and the EPA. Now, they've had to do a lot of changes, and it's still, EPA talked to me in October. They gave us a presentation about how things are still in flux. And I do feel bad about the EPA. for the EPA. Like I like to throw them under the bus myself because when things go wrong, these guys, man. But I do work with them. They are good people. They're just trying to do their jobs like I am, and I feel bad for them because I like the chlorpyrifos thing. In fact, I just got an email from the EPA this Monday. They're going to finalize the chlorpyrifos rules. A while back they got told by the Ninth Circuit Court that you should have taken care of this a while back. That you didn't was arbitrary and capricious. So you have to get rid of the food limits for chlorpyrifos. Well, the growers and the industry didn't like that so much, so they went to the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they said, "Hey, this isn't right." And the Eighth Circuit's like, "Yeah, right." Them just banning it is arbitrary and capricious. So now you have one court telling them they have to ban it, one court saying they can't ban it, and this is really what the Supreme Court's for. So of course they're not going to look at it, but adventures in litigation is not going to bore you with that. So they kind of get ping-ponged back and forth. I feel bad for them. That's kind of what's happened with chlorpyrifos. They're down to the last 11. I know the email said it can still use it on food like apples, alfalfa. I don't eat much of that. Wheat, tart cherries. They'll get that rule finalized out and put out, and you guys will know what you can use chlorpyrifos on if you still need that on your products, on your crops. So the Endangered Species Act, the way we got here is because they got sued, again, because that's what the EPA does. They get sued. Not so much on our end, and I appreciate that. Please don't take us to court. It gives me terrible nightmares if I have to go to court all the time. So just leave it to other big players in the EPA. But basically, the EPA was told you have to comply with the Endangered Species Act. And a lot of the reason why they're dragging their feet, honestly, is because they're trying to keep pesticides in channels of trade. They're trying to keep things out there so you can use them. And that's a lot of what these lawsuits come in for, is they're told, well, you can't keep these dangerous things out there. You have to make new rules. So they got taken to court. They got a settlement agreement they had to do. And we came up with the Bulletins Live 2 was the first problem. So the ESA means they can't jeopardize species existence. They can't destroy or modify designated critical habitats. Agencies have to consult and action may affect listed species, which where the pesticides come in. And the label has to include the Endangered Species Protected Bulletin, which is where Bulletins Live comes in. Now, they've tried to make it a lot better on the website, and I will say at least now the website works. You can go to it, you can plug in what you're going to use, where you're going to spray it, and it'll pump out a map as to what you have to do. Most times you have to keep, I think, like 134 feet away from any water. The only real thing we have in Washington that's fallen under Bulletins Live 2 are salmonid habitats. So if you're not next to a stream or a river, it's not that big of a deal. You still have to check. That's the law because it's on the label. But that's the main thing, is you're trying to protect salmon. So how do they apply? They have Bulletins Live 2. They've got a new herbicide, and they're coming out with the insecticide strategies for mitigation, which are complicated because it involves charts and graphs and points you have to come up to. But luckily, you're going to get 3 right off the bat in Washington. So at least you got that going for you. And as I said, they took one, I forget what it was last year, the endangered species that was on the list that we had a problem with because it was everywhere. And basically, WSDA, when they went back to the EPA, said, hey, you don't want us to use these herbicides in these habitats, but those are the herbicides we use to protect the habitats. So it's kind of defeating the whole purpose. So they came back and said, okay, we're not going to involve that. So they took that old one off and put on a new one. The only thing right now is the White Bluffs bladder pod, which I will get to a little later. First goes Bulletins Live 2. Bulletins Live 2 still working, just the same as it always has been. I know there's a lot of concern about it, but from my point of view, I don't think it's actually that bad, because the only time you have to worry about any of this is when it shows up on a pesticide label you're using. Until that point, it's just something that's out there nebulous. So once you get a new label that has this on it, like any other new label, you got to comply with it. It's just this one involves going to a website and printing out something if you're next to a salmonid impact area. Right now, there's only these pesticides in Bulletins Live 2. So if you're not even using these, don't have to worry about it. I can go through and pronounce them all. You guys can read them. It's all good. So it's just these. If you're not using one of these, you really don't have to worry about it. If you are using one of these, you don't have to worry about it until you get the new label. So once you get the new label and using one of these, go online, make sure you check it out. It's always just around water stuff in Washington right now. So if that changes, it'll update on there, but I haven't seen anything coming yet. So far, if you don't have anything next to a stream or a river, you should be okay. Now, how do you know if you need a bulletin? On the label. So when the new label comes out, it's going to have something in there called the Endangered Species Protection Requirements. It'll be a brand new box. You can look at it. It'll tell you where to go. That's not the right address. Well, it is the right address. That web page will get you to the Bulletins Live 2 thing eventually. You got to click like 3 different things and hope you don't get lost in the EPA's website. I put one of the QR codes back there that takes you directly to the map so you can plug it in. So as long as you save that one, you'll know exactly where to go. You want to click through 5 or 6 different things. You can just go directly to the mapping website. When you do, it'll pull up the map. You zoom on your area. It'll give you the location. So it really works really well. It's either like a zip code or a town or thing. It works kind of through Google. It's really good about filling in the blanks about your location. So just give it a random location, then you can scroll around on the map and it'll fill in these pink areas. You put in what you're going to use, your pesticide, and then you put in the application month. You have to do this, I think, within 3 months, 2 months before you do the application. They don't change that. 6 months? 6 months. Yeah, 6, that's right, because that seems like a long way out before you're going to apply something. But as long as you do it within 6 months before you apply, so, you know, do it in March and you're good till the end of the growing season, pretty much. Target month, there it is, up to 6 months in advance, the date of application. You zoom into the intended place, it'll print out, it'll show you a map. Oop. And it'll have a little thing where you can print the map out. You do not have to keep these. There is no requirement that you keep these for record keeping. There's just a requirement that you have done it. So if we come out when you're doing it, one of these, and it's in an area, we're going to ask to see it because it's part of the label, so it should be on site. If we're checking later for record keeping, we're not going to ask for it because there's no requirement for you to keep your records of it. You probably should, you know, just for your own, you know, CYA, but you don't have to, and we're not going to ask for it. You get the printable bulletin. It's always going to be next to the water areas. If you've got something that goes into that area, you only have to follow what it says. And most of these, it's going to be like 100-something feet from the water. So you just can't spray within that distance. The rest of the field, you can spray fine. It shouldn't affect you that much overall, hopefully. Some bulletins are easy to follow, some are more complex. The ones in Washington aren't that complex. They're pretty easy. And as always, if you ever have a question with one of these things in the field or beforehand when you're starting it up, give us a call. That's what we're here for. We'll help you through it. We'll figure it out. If we can't figure it out over the phone, like I'm sure one of us can just print it out and email it to you. So don't worry. That's what we're here for, is to help you guys comply with this and make sure you don't get in trouble. They'll come out with something like this saying the herbicide you're using, active ingredient, method, and then the code. The code will link down to thing within 50 meters, 164 feet of a salmonid habitat. That's what most of the ones in Washington look like. So if you're never within 164 feet of a salmonid habitat, you're probably okay. So again, no record keeping requirements, an extension to label, so you have to follow it. So whatever it says, you do have to do as part of the label, just like you would anything else that's part of a label. Now, the other thing the EPA did, where I'm at here, I want to get us out in time for lunch. The other thing we did was the EPA had to do with the ESA work plan, the Endangered Species Act work plan. They had 2 parts. The herbicide strategy, they finalized that in August with a vulnerable species action plan. And that's the one that they took off the thing that used to be here and added a new one, which is the bottle, whatever. It's in Eastern Washington and like a few miles stretch north of Richmond, only on the east side of the river, next to the Hanford nuclear area, and half of it's in a wildlife area. So I don't think it's going to happen. It's all at the bottom of the bluff too. So all the bottom of White Bluffs. So there's nothing going on there. So I don't know how in the world anybody could ever mess that up. So that shouldn't be an issue. The one thing that they finally got on it, and we just have to hope they don't add anything else. The goals are to mitigate any impact from ag products onto endangered species. They try to do it through several different ways. There's a list of things. You have to get into points, up to 9 points. In the worst case scenarios, you have to get 9 points off this magic list they have. But like I said, where we're at, you're going to get 3 points right off the bat. So once this becomes a thing, and again, it's just like Bulletins Live too, until it's on the label, you don't have to worry about it. Like, so once it's on the label, then you have to go and follow whatever directions they have on the label, and it'll tell you how many points you have to do. I've also included a QR code for their website that has the workbook, workshop, whatever. It's a bunch of stuff you can look at. I forget what it's called. The labels on the bulletins will specify how many, if any, mitigation points you need. The max is 9. You don't always have to have 9. That's just the max. So in most cases, we're going to be well below it. You can get up to 6 points for pesticide runoff vulnerability. Nothing in Washington gets 6 points for that, but almost everything gets 3 points. So, oh wait, I'm sorry. I think Eastern Washington has some 6 pointers in the mountains. No, it's in the mountains have 6 points. So you get 1 point if you track it, and then you get either 1 or 2 points if you have technical consultation or you participate in a conservation program. So yeah, so there's an area there in the middle where you get 6 points just by farming there. So that's going to be real easy to get the 9. The rest of the state pretty much is going to be a 3 point. So you're already a third of the way there in Whatcom, Skagit. Most places over here on the west side of the state. There are some bad places over there. As you get to the coast where the runoff's a little more problem, you only get 2 points. That is. What resources are available? We've got the stuff out there. We got links that we provide to the EPA's program. We are going to have our own website coming soon. That's going to help you get through this. Again, if you ever have questions, call us. That's what we're here for, to help you through the changes that are coming on the labels to make sure you get everything done right. The EPA is complying through all of these. EPA is complying with the ESA. That's what they're trying to do. And like I said earlier, they're doing this to try to keep the pesticides in your hands. I know you think they're the bad guys and all this, but they are honestly, from a certain point of view, trying to help you guys out. Because if they don't do the ESA work plans and all the Bulletins Live too, then they just have to ban the pesticide. So that's why they're doing this, is so they don't have to ban it from all these court orders they keep getting hit with. And so next time you're feeling about, being angry at the EPA, at least this part, if they are trying to help you guys out by making sure you have the pesticides you need to grow your crops. We're active in all the work groups. You can also be active in them as well. All of these things are open to the public, and you can sign up. I've got information there. If you want more information on how to sign up for these, you can contact us. We'll give you the information, and you can sit in on all these lovely, like 4 or 5 hour long meetings with the EPA as well. It's a lovely way to spend the day. So EPA has identified 27 species from the Fish and Wildlife Service in the whole nation. One of them, the White Bluffs bladderpod, which I told you is just the one over there north of Richland on the Columbia River, and that one little stretch, is the only thing that's here. None of it's farmable land. They're in more danger of having a boat beach on them than anybody do pesticides. So I'm pretty confident we're all going to be okay if that's the only one that's left. There do have more to come. They told me that it's still changing. They're still adding things, taking things off. They'll let us know when they do. We'll let you know. Hopefully it sticks to where it's at, but you never can tell with the way these work out. Questions?
Awesome. Thanks, Caleb. Anybody have any questions? That was thick with information. So
I know everybody's head. I just glass over when we're doing technical stuff.
Lunch.
I've been on the other side of these technical presentations, getting my credits. So like I said, I've got brochures back there that have the information on them and the little QR codes. You can grab as many of those you want. Probably don't need more than 2 or 3. And then that'll let you click on them, look up everything you need online. And again, if you have any questions, always contact us. That's what we're there for. So it's time for lunch.
Awesome. Yeah. We're going to get those pesticide credit sheets out for you. If you have a chance, I'm going to put a QR code up here too if you want to get in on that blueberry survey. We've been trying to push people on. I heard you might get like $20 for doing it. So, but yeah, enjoy lunch. Thank you so much, Caleb, for all this information. I know it's really helpful. Thanks, y'all.